This week on ANN, the president of the Adventist World Church and the Adventist Church in North America respond to the tragic shootings in the U.S. state of Pennsylvania.
The Supreme Court in Korea agrees to hear a Sabbath case.
And the church in Hungary makes another step towards reconciliation.
These stories and more coming up.
Thank you so much for joining us this week.
President of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Ted N.C. Wilson, recently responded to several acts of violence in the United States and a plane crash in Indonesia.
Wilson offered deep condolences to the families of two African Americans who were shot and killed in what appears to be a racially motivated act in a supermarket in Jeffersontown, Kentucky, and to those affected by a shooting spree at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
A gunman entered the Tree of Life congregation and opened fire on October 27, killing 11 people and injuring 4 more. It is considered to be the deadliest attack on the Jewish community in U.S. history.
In his statement, Wilson says, "Let us pray for the families affected and for the Spirit of Christ to reign in hearts so that hatred and bigotry will be put away. Let us pray for Christ's soon coming when God's perfect peace will reign at last."
Wilson also asked for prayer for the families of the 189 people who were lost in the recent crash of the Lion Air aircraft in Indonesia.
Wilson said, all of these sorrows are indications that we live in a sinful world, and underlined that we are longing for the soon coming of Christ. May we renew our focus on mission, seeking to reach our friends, neighbors, communities, and beyond as we bring the hope that only Christ can give to a world desperately in need of Him.
The Adventist Church in North America also responded to the shooting that took place during Sabbath services at the Jewish synagogue on October 27. Their statement in part reads, "Our thoughts and prayers go out to the families of those killed and to all of our Jewish brothers and sisters. The United States was founded on the promise of religious freedom, and when one faith group has this right taken away, we all suffer. Nothing is more sacred than the right to worship our God in the safety of our sanctuaries with those we love."
The statement from the North American Division also addressed other recent hate crimes in the U.S., stating, "We are also disturbed by the other recent acts of violence and hatred that serve to split this country apart. Our diversity makes us stronger. It reflects the cultures, religions, and ethnicities of the world. It is in times like these when Americans must band together to help everyone impacted by these hateful acts. There is no race, gender, ethnicity, or religion in time of need. We are all God's children and in need of compassion and His love. We ask that all people, no matter what their faith, pray for healing upon the heartbroken, the injured, and those mourning the loss of their loved ones. God calls us to treat everyone with grace-filled compassion and love, especially to those different from ourselves. We can and must do better."
The statement was signed by the 3 officers of the Adventist Church in North America, Dan Jackson, President, Alexander Bryan, Executive Secretary, and Tom Evans, Treasurer. To read both statements in full, visit news.adventist.org.
Seventh-day Adventists in Korea are requesting prayers from the World Church family as a landmark Sabbath-keeping lawsuit makes its way to the nation's Supreme Court. First-year medical student Jaman Han is suing for the right to take university exams outside of Sabbath hours. This will be the first time Korea's highest court has taken up the issue. A favorable outcome could give people of faith new religious freedom protections. Public Affairs and Religious Liberty Director for the Adventist Church in Korea, Lee Ji-chun, says that while religious freedom is a constitutional right under Korean law, it has not always translated into real-life protection for those who worship on Saturday. Han began his lawsuit only after he repeatedly tried and failed to gain permission from his university to take his exams on a day other than Sabbath. He initially lost his case, but won last month after appealing to a higher court. The university, however, has now appealed to the Supreme Court to overturn Han's victory. In a statement released by his family, Han said, "God's providence will be with us as we carry on the battle. We are sincerely grateful to the church members for their support and prayers."
2 branches of the Adventist Church in Hungary took further steps toward reconciliation with 2 mass ordination services on Sabbath, October 27. Dividing 40 years ago over issues of government control during the communist regime, the official Seventh-day Adventist group and the Carrick group have recently spent considerable time listening to each other, seeking forgiveness, and building understanding. In 2015, they signed a joint declaration following a series of consultations that began in 2011. Leaders traveled together to the 2015 General Conference session in San Antonio and the World Church rejoiced with them and continued to pray as the process towards unity continued. President of the Trans-European Division, Rafat Kamal, traveled to Hungary to join in the two special services. The Adventist Church and the Trans-European Division sent this report to help explain the reunification process.
The 43-year division between the Adventist Church in Hungary and the Christian Advent community, known as Kerak, has a long history and is complex in nature. It is now 3 years since Adventist Church leaders and a new generation of Kerak leaders have been able to build a bridge and reconcile both groups. As many mistakes were made from several parties and lessons learned from the past, our duty is to follow Christ's example to forgive and begin to heal. This is what we can celebrate today with the Adventist Church in Hungary.
280-an csatlakoztak, és olyan 350-en voltak összesen.
For decades, the church attempted to make amends for previous mistakes that led to the separation of members, leaving the younger generations to ask themselves, how did it come to this divide?
It was in 1975. Hungary has been in a communist rule, and it wasn't the best time for the churches. It's produced a lot of tensions. The churches were under an immense pressure, and in this very difficult environment happened that there were some disagreements how to deal with the situation, and this led eventually to a split, not just in opinion but also in the churches, in the local communities.
Historically, some members had issues regarding cooperation between the Hungarian union leaders and government officials during the communist era. Then, in an attempt to preserve unity on a larger scale, members and pastors were disfellowshipped and churches were disbanded by union leaders.
So in the church, I believe it's always a big question how to deal with problems or people who become problematic. They never wanted to break the relationship. They wanted to reform the church. They wanted to get things right. But it never was an intention deep in the souls to split the church, to split the community, to split families.
Throughout the decades, the General Conference and Trans-European Division leadership attempted to mediate between both groups, understanding that there is no overnight solution, and any transformation that deals with changing attitudes and building trust will take time. Today, both organizations are working to bridge the gap by setting down their differences and combining resources for a much bigger goal.
To see the full video and hear more about this story, visit tedadventist.org.
Heartrending accounts of violence against refugees and migrant children set the tone for a unique gathering this month in Rome, Italy. The meetings brought together representatives of more than 80 international faith groups and non-governmental organizations, including the Adventist Development and Relief Agency. The three-day summit, called Faith Action for Children on the Move, drew some 200 attendees. Its goal was to forge new partnerships to help protect the estimated 28 million vulnerable young people and children worldwide who are currently displaced from their homes by conflict, poverty, natural disasters, or migration. The global surge in the numbers of refugees and migrants in recent years means a corresponding increase in the exploitation of children, who often find themselves prey to trafficking, forced labor, pornography, forced marriages, and other physical abuses. According to the United Nations International Children's Fund, 1 in every 80 children worldwide is displaced from their home. From 2005 to 2015, the number of children refugees more than doubled from 4 million to 9 million, with an estimated 300,000 children crossing borders during 2015 and 2016 as unaccompanied minors. 30% of all detected trafficking victims worldwide are children. The summit was spearheaded by the World Vision International and supported by a number of other organizations. Public Affairs and Religious Liberty Director for the Adventist World Church, Ganun Diab, was a member of the organizing committee and gave a presentation during the first plenary session, outlining why faith groups should coordinate their efforts in addressing the plight of children on the move. Throughout the 3 days of presentations and panels, participants explored ways to better focus and coordinate their efforts in providing support and protection for refugee and migrant children.
Everett Brown, president of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Jamaica, and Aston Barnes, former treasurer of the West Indies Union, were among the 206 individuals accorded national honors for 2018.
The appointments, effective August 6, Jamaica's Independence Day, were presented by His Excellency, the Governor-General of Jamaica, the Most Honorable Patrick Allen, at King's House on National Heroes Day in Kingston, Jamaica, on October 15.
Brown has been accorded the Order of Distinction in the rank of Commander for outstanding contribution to religion.
Barnes received the Order of Distinction in the rank of Officer for contribution to the ministerial fraternity and to social development, welfare, and philanthropy in Jamaica.
Brown said, "In accepting this award from the government of Jamaica, I do so with a sense of humility. I'm fully cognizant of the fact that this national recognition is just a reflection of the many lives that my service and ministry has touched through the opportunities given by the church to serve members and the wider society."
You can find out more about the story and how Brown and Barnes have served the Adventist Church at interamerica.org.
Coming up, a group of ophthalmologists visit Fiji.
But up next, Australia's favorite cereal turns 90.
I firmly believe that true freedom comes from a connection with Jesus Christ. He himself said in John chapter 8, "Those whom the Son has set free are free indeed." That means freedom from guilt, freedom from fear. That means an assurance there is a transcendent power who is working that together for my good.
Welcome back.
Iconic breakfast cereal WeetBix turned 90 this week.
While the original WeetBix recipe remains 97% whole grain, low in sugar, high in iron, and a source of natural fiber, the brand has evolved in response to breakfast trends, dietary requirements, and population health challenges.
In 2014, the Seventh-day Adventist-run sanitarium introduced gluten-free WeetBix made from sorghum instead of wheat, catering to celiac and gluten-sensitive consumers.
2 years later, WeetBix cholesterol lowering was launched, the first cereal in Australia to include the Heart Foundation's recommended 2 grams of plant sterols per serve. In recognition of this innovation, WeetBix cholesterol lowering was named Australian Healthy Food Guide's 2017 Product of the Year.
Sanitarium Executive Manager Todd Sanders said, "It's always been our mission to help Australians enjoy good health and well-being. That's why we're constantly looking for new and innovative ways to ensure WeetBix can be enjoyed by every Australian and how our food can play a role in helping address some of our modern-day health challenges. Being with Aussie families at breakfast every morning is an incredible honor, but we also see it as our responsibility to help ensure they're getting the best start to their day."
2018 is a big year for Sanitarium, which is also celebrating its 120th birthday.
Seventh-day Adventist University students who study in public campuses around the world took part in a special weekend event coined Global Public Campus Ministries Weekend, October 19 to 21st. The Global PCM Weekend aimed to connect and involve students, academics, and professionals in mission and service in their universities, home churches, and communities. This is the third event organized by PCM Ministries around the World Church. A special 24-hour live broadcast was transmitted on Hope Channel, sharing stories from around the world. The program let university students know that they are valued and that God has a mission and a purpose for them as messengers of the cross in the region of the world.
Michael Rouser, head of ophthalmology at Loma University Health, recently assembled a team of cataract surgeons to perform corrective eye surgeries in Fiji, a country where vision, care, and glasses are limited and procedures to restore eyesight aren't common. Rouser, who also serves as department chair of the Loma University Eye Institute, and a team of world-renowned cataract surgeons traveled to Nadi, Fiji last month, performing 137 surgeries in 6 days. According to Rouser, the group performed 135 cataract surgeries, 1 pterygium removal, and 1 ectropion repair at the Nadi Hospital Eye Clinic. He said debilitating eye conditions like these are often left untreated, as surgical treatment is not typically available on the islands. Since the first organized mission trip in 1991, the Beeve Foundation and its medical team have aided approximately 3% of the country's population, offering 28,603 eye exams, 27,714 pairs of eyeglasses, 1,756 cataract extractions with lens implants, 55 corneal transplants, and 1,005 other vision procedures.
And now we have an update on a story we've covered for the past 8 months.
During a visit to Tonga earlier this month, Trans-Pacific Union Mission Associate Education Director Mele Viola found that most of the buildings damaged by Tropical Cyclone Gita have been rebuilt. Students are excited to be in their new classrooms.
Beulah College was one of the worst affected by the cyclone, with many of the buildings suffering significant roof damage, 3 staff houses rendered uninhabitable, and the Industrial Arts building destroyed. Beulah Primary and Hilliard Memorial Adventist School were also badly damaged. While the schools awaited rebuilding work, tents became makeshift classrooms.
According to church leaders in the region, most of the buildings at Beulah College have been completed except for 2 staff houses, a maintenance building, and the Industrial Arts building. At Hilliard Memorial School, a new classroom has been completed and was officially opened by the Prime Minister last month.
Coming up, Emily Mastrapa is here to talk about World Orphans Day.
But up next, we have the second part of a series on Adventist mission and religious liberty.
We may look, pray, read, think, worship, sing, and share differently, but we all look forward to the Sabbath, and we all look forward to the future when Jesus will come again. With this message in mind, we arrived at a core component for a new identity system, the creation grid, a simple 7-column structure for layout. The grid is a reference both to the prophetic timeline as well as to the creation week that culminated in the 7th-day Sabbath. Regardless of what or where you are designing, you can always find information to help you communicate that we are all Seventh-day Adventists.
Welcome back.
Religious liberty is a right that the Seventh-day Adventist Church has defended for years.
Today we have the second part of the series of how Adventist mission and religious liberty go hand in hand.
Adventist Mission has more.
Although religious liberty is a fundamental human right, the majority of the world is unable to enjoy this right. In fact, 76% of the world's population, or more than 5 billion people, live in countries with high restrictions to religious freedom. These restrictions include blasphemy laws that prohibit negative speech against the country's religious figures, anti-conversion laws that forbid conversion to any religion other than the dominant religion of the land, and requirements to gain official registration to operate as a church.
There are other places in a country like Kazakhstan, for example, where you have freedom of worship, which is distinct from freedom of religion. Freedom of worship simply says you can worship when and wherever the government says it's okay. So you can worship in a church, that's acceptable, but you may not be able to worship in your home, to have a Bible study among your friends. So there's a difference between worshiping where the government permits you to worship and having true religious freedom, allowing you to share your faith whenever and whenever you choose.
There's also the issue of social hostility. This is just where there is a lack of understanding of religious minorities. There may be a dominant religion in a country such as, a country in the Middle East that's predominantly Islamic, or countries which are predominantly Orthodox Christian. A religious minority comes in and it can be very isolating to live in a society where you are the minority and many of your habits and activities make you different.
This is a topic of concern because not enjoying religious freedom goes even deeper than just not enjoying a right. Religious freedom is linked to what makes us human, our conscience. And if a person cannot function according to the dictates of his or her conscience, it is as if that person lives beneath the dignity of his or her humanity. So basically, you deprive people of their religious liberty, it is like depriving them of their humanity.
Parle responds to cases of religious persecution by visiting governments, lodging official complaints, and raising the issue in context in the United Nations. Essentially, Parle's primary work is to build good relationships with civic and religious leaders.
Some people would say, why do we need to interact with government officials? And one of the catchphrases that we've adopted is you need to make friends before you need friends. And so oftentimes we need government help when we're advocating for Seventh-day Adventist Church, we may have lost our legal right to exist. We may have Sabbath accommodation issues. We may have other workplace disputes. And so part of it is being a good neighbor.
People need to know us first before they will be able to understand our faith. If Adventists make a good impression on a local leader, this will be positively affect the entire community or even a nation. This is how many mission paths are opened.
Positive relationships between the Adventist Church and civic or other religious leaders promotes mission work behind the scenes. For example, before coming to the General Conference, Nelu Bercha, Associate Director of PARL, worked in Romania, promoting religious liberty in local schools and other areas of the community. As he built positive relationships with local officials, doors opened for the church's work.
One of our friends, the Minister of Education, visited the headquarters of the General Conference and was impressed by the Adventist philosophy on health, education, and religious freedom. On his return to Romania, he summoned all presidents of Romanian universities and talked with them about religious freedom in Romanian schools. It was an extraordinary step for religious freedom in Romania. In the following years, the Prime Minister was one of the speakers at a religious freedom meeting organized by Adventists. And even the President of the country supported our program promoting religious freedom.
This is the behind-the-scenes work PARL does to open avenues for Adventist mission work around the world. Daily building good relationships with other people supports the mission of the church. And that's something every Adventist can do right where he or she is.
Public affairs and religious liberty is something that can't be done from a central headquarters. It is inherently something that has to take place at the local level. It is individual church members building good relationships with people in their community, whether it's attending community events, making friends with your civic leaders, your mayor, your local council. These are all things that have to happen on a one-to-one basis.
If you see something, say something. Don't hesitate to write a letter, send an email, call your representative. Be a voice for freedom. And some people may say, I'm one person, I'm one voice, can I make a difference? The thing to remember is we're not called to be successful, we're called simply to be faithful.
Religious freedom, and this is key, is a lifestyle. I invite every Seventh-day Adventist to be seen, not just in the public arena, but by everyone as kind people, gentle people, respectful of people's dignity.
Please consider how you can promote religious liberty by building good relationships with others in your community. And please pray for the efforts of the church in fighting for religious freedom in places where such freedom is limited. Thank you for supporting the mission of the church.
Watch this and other mission stories online by visiting AdventistMission.org, then click on videos at the top.
The Bible is clear about our responsibility to take care of orphans and children who have no families.
Emily Mastrapa is here to tell us how you can join the Seventh-day Adventist Church in supporting World Orphans Day.
It is estimated that more than 140 million children worldwide, ranging from infants to teenagers, have lost one or both of their parents. Children become orphaned for many reasons, including war, famine, displacement, disease, or poverty. November 12 is World Orphans Day. This day was created by the STARS Foundation to raise awareness about the number of children in this world who lack something most of us take for granted: parents. The STARS Foundation's wish was for this day to motivate people to do anything they can to help. Anything you can do to help would make a world of a difference to an impoverished orphan, so take some time to figure out what you can do to help. You could, for example, organize an event to raise money. There is also the possibility to sponsor an individual child in an orphanage or to invest in educational programs that aim to give orphans a new start in life. There are many ways to help, and this annual day seeks to bring awareness to those ideas to as wide an audience as possible. The church's ministry for these children ranges widely from providing orphanage to foster homes to adoption to strengthening the local community so it can care for the children. World Orphans and Vulnerable Children's Sabbath is called to bring awareness to the great need and through compassion bring hope and healing to those who are far too easily neglected by society at large. This year, the special Sabbath falls on November 10. Find more information and resources for this day at specialneeds.adventist.org/orphans.
And finally, for today's episode, let's turn to Ashley Chisholm for a look at Adventist history.
This week, we hear about the legacy of a very special family.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History. On October 28, 1890, Enos and Florence Morrison, along with their daughter Ethel, sailed from Australia en route to Cape Town, South Africa, as part of an extended journey, arriving on December 18th. Brother Morrison was a coal porter, and the General Conference had sent him to various places throughout the world to lead out in literature evangelism and to train others to do likewise. The Morrisons first went to London, England, in 1889, and from there they went to Australia and then New Zealand. After being very successful in training canvassers in those places, Morrison and his family then went to South Africa for several months to teach there before returning to the United States in May 1893. 27 years and 6 days later, on November 2nd, 1917, the Morrisons' brother-in-law, William T. Covert, passed away in Aurora, Illinois. Covert, born in the U.S. state of Indiana in 1842, was a Seventh-day Adventist minister and pioneer church worker for 45 years. He was the very first president of the Indiana Conference, which organized in 1872, and he also served as the president of the Tennessee, Vermont, Wisconsin, and Northern Illinois conferences. Not at the same time, of course. A colleague praised Covert for his authorial, pastoral, and administrative work, saying, "He worked with unreserved consecration to God and to his service." Although Covert never served in a foreign field, his friends and colleagues considered him, quote, "a living missionary whose example should be amply followed by us all." That came from This Week in Adventist History.
Thanks for watching A&M. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
We'd love to hear from you. Send us your feedback and tell us how your church is making a difference in its community.
Be sure to capture plenty of video footage and photos, then write up a summary of the event's important details, and feel free to send full video reports as well.
You can reach us by sending an email to annvideo11@gmail.com.
Before we say goodbye, here's some good news from the book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 21.
The passage says, our scriptures tell us that if you see your enemy hungry, go buy that person lunch, or if he's thirsty, get him a drink. Your generosity will surprise him with goodness. Don't let evil get the best of you. Get the best of evil by doing good.
That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.